Good day, students. We are talking about arrays at the moment. In our previous video, we talked about how to assign values to an array as part of the declaration statement. We want to look now at other ways to put values into an array. One of the examples is to make use of a calculation to assign values to an array. This example about square values is also discussed on page 75 in your structured programming textbook. So you can read the particulars there as well. What must happen here is the first few integer values, the square values of integers, must be assigned to an array called array squares. So first you declare your array with the 5 spaces as indicated in the assignment. Then you make use of a for loop stepping through the elements of the array. So for k equals 0, which is the first element, up to k less than 5. There are 5 elements, but remember the last element is index 4. So the for loop will take you through the indexes. Then inside the body of the loop, you will say array squares, square brackets k, which will refer to the specific element. You want to assign the value of k times k to that particular element. So k is 0 at the moment, so 0 times 0 is the result of the calculation, the square. Assign that result to the position 0, the index 0 in your array. Next time, the k will be incremented by 1, so k will become 1. You are referring to position 1 now in your array. 1 times 1 give you a result of 1. Assign that result to position 1 in your array. Next time, k will become 1 more, 2. So 2 times 2 will give you 4 as a result. Assign that to position 2 in your array, index 2. So that is what happens here. Next time, k will become 3. 3 times 3 assigned to position 3, and so on. So as you can see here, you populate the array with the result of a calculation, depending on what your assignment requires. Then you follow that up with a loop, stepping through the elements of your array, again using the counter of the for loop to see the content of your array. It's been coded here, so let's quickly run this program and you'll see there you have the result. Okay, so let's look at the code quickly. There you declare your array, as you can see, and then the first loop, here we've just used n to show you don't need to use k all the time. You can use another variable name here. N, same thing, just remember in this entire loop now, n will be the reference. So there you put n times n. Then the display loop, you can use another variable because the two loops are not related. Each loop will run independently. So it will start with k. K will again refer you to 0 up to 4 and then display the content of the array. Alright, so that's an example of how to use a calculation to assign values to an array. Next example is assignment 1 in the practical 1 document, where random values are used to populate or to fill up an array. It's a very popular way of getting values into an array. In this particular assignment, it says write code to fill an array called array numbers with 10 random numbers. The numbers that are generated must be in the range from 1 to 100. The reasoning behind how random values are generated is explained on page 62 in the structured programming textbook. So please read that again. What you need is the ran function, and you also need the sran function, which I'll explain in a minute. So the example that's provided here, RAN will take a random value from the computer, and then you must apply modulus to that value, and the modulus value that you use will depend on the range that you are interested in. In this case, the range must go from 1 to 100. If you use 101 as your modulus element, remember 101 will never be the result. It will always be one less than 101, which is what we want, 100. But 0 will also be a possibility here. So that's why we need to look at another way. So let's go for 100 as your modulus value. So whatever is generated by RAN, if we modulus that by 100, which is the remainder of this calculation, it will give us 99 as your biggest possible remainder if you divide by 100. So 99 is one less than what we want for our range, so that's why we add 1. That will also cover our problem with 0, because if 0 is the result of this calculation or this modulus calculation, then we will add 1, which will give us the 1 as our lower limit. So the statement that you see in front of you here is the one that we should use. So let's go to our code blocks. Here, let me just comment the previous example. And let's start coding this assignment to see, can we do the code to put 10 random values into our array numbers array. So int, because all the values that will be generated will be integers. The name of the array is array numbers, as stated in my example or in my problem assignment, and it must be 10 values. So there I declare my array. Now part of random is the sran function that I need to make sure that every time that I run my program, new random numbers will be generated. Please read page 62 again. And this is the way that we code that. This is to randomize my random number. So I need the sran function and the time function. But for this, I need 2 new header files, which is the stdlib.h. The sran function sits in this header file, stdlib.h, and the time function sits in the time.h header file. On this note, please don't include header files if you don't need them. It's not good programming. It won't let your program create an error. But it's definitely not the best way to do programming, to just add random header files whether you need them or not. Shows that you don't really know what's going on in those header files. So for this you need those particular header files. So let's go and code our for loop to now populate my array. So I start with k equals 0 because I need to start with element 0 of my array. Then k must be less than 10 because I must go up to 9. I've got 0 up to 9 elements in my array, and then k plus plus to go one by one. Then inside the body of the loop, I do array numbers, that's the name of my array, element number k, that's a 0 at the moment, must get the value of ran modulus 100, that's what we discussed just now, plus 1. That must be equal sign, right? K must be a small letter k. Right, so the for loop goes from 0 up to 9. One by one, I'm going to assign a random value to the elements of my array. But I won't see anything. I must first do output. So let's just put a heading. So let's say random values. Heading is before the loop structure. I do my heading because I want the heading to be displayed only once. Then I do my for loop, int k equals 0 again, stepping through the elements of my array, k plus plus. Then, oh man, there, square bracket, display cout, name of the array, numbers, and the reference to the element that I want to see. First time it will be 0, then 1, and so on. So let us just put a few spaces so it's easily readable. Let's say random values, and let's try. Okay, no syntax errors, and there I see random values, my heading, and I see random values, there I see a 90. But now the problem with random values is you have to make sure as a programmer that the correct range is covered, 1 up to 100, which is very difficult because I can run this a few times. There I've got 100, yay. So I can see it goes up to 100. I'm still looking for a 1, and I must make sure that there are no zeros. There's another 100, 99. I want to see a 1 to make sure that my lowest limit is covered. Can you see I've executed the loop a few times now and I haven't seen a 1 yet. So it makes it very difficult. So as a programmer, I normally go back and I make my range a bit smaller. If it works for 10, a range of 1 to 10, it will work for 1 to 100. So I make it a bit smaller and I run it again to see, yes, I've got a 1, I've got a 10, and I haven't seen a 0 anywhere. So the lowest limit and the upper limit is covered. I'm just curious about the 0. I can run it a few times and I don't see any zeros. You see, that's the difficult thing. I don't see any zeros. So I'm confident that zeros are not covered. So if it works for the range of 1 to 10, I can put back my 0. I'm confident that it will work for the range of 1 to 100 in the same way. So I can just check and make sure that it goes for the bigger values now. All right, so if you go back to your assignment, we've done the population and we've done the first bullet here, display the numbers of the array with a suitable heading. The next, you can try the rest of this now. Can you change the loop to go from the last element up to the first element, or do another loop here to, you see, you can maybe copy this and just paste this because this loop values are the same, but we can say reversed random values. Then we can run it again to see, right, random values, reversed random values. Okay, I haven't changed my loop yet, and there's definitely a next line missing. Right, so let's go back and let's go next line there to make it more readable. And then reversed will be, what must be my starting index now? Where must I start, 9 or 10? Do I have a 10th value? A value with an index of 10? No, it goes from 0 up to 9, remember? So I'll start with element number 9. Then I must go backwards. So while it's greater than or equal to, let's make it equal to 0, because that's my lowest element, the index, the lowest index. And then to get from 9 to 0, I must go the other way around, subtract all the time. Right, so let's run now. See, there's my original values, and there the values are in the reversed order. So the 32, that is element number 9, is now displayed first. This is element 8, and so on. So element 0, which is the 51, is now showed here as the last element in the output. All right, so that works. So now, what about the next bullet? Do the sum and display the sum and the average, or calculate the average and display the average. I'm sure you can do this. And then also add a loop to display only the values above the average. The values in the array that is more or above the average. There's a hint on how that loop should look like. So good luck, try this, and once you've done this, see if you can now continue with assignment 2 on your own. Good luck.